Welcome back to another episode of Inside Lines Podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson. What's up, Inside Lines fam? Let's talk about Week 10. It was exciting for a few of you because I know a lot of you had Christian McCaffrey on your team. He was your first rounder and he's back. So congratulations to all of you that got your guy back. Hopefully for the rest of the season, he's just getting warmed up and racks up lots of points for y'all. Speaking of points, the Chiefs had just enough points to pull off another win, and they are still undefeated, which is crazy. The Saints are back on track because they got a win, and they were pumped. But on the other end of things, the Jets and the Cowboys, it's looking like they are done for the season. They are just struggling, and it's been so hard to watch. So I have a feeling they're going to start figuring out who they're going to draft for next year. All right, enough about football. Let's talk about life. As of yesterday, 11/11, I have officially launched the Ladies Playbook app. And this app is exclusively for women in the NFL. And these ladies in the NFL have many opportunities. Number one, they can find resources and recommendations they need, whether that's a pediatrician, an OBGYN, if they want to find a hairstylist or get their nails done, there's some resources on there for that. They also have the ability to reach out to other women and introduce themselves, which is so nice so you don't have the new girl feeling. You have women that you can build community around. And then there's also these amazing women in the NFL that have businesses that we support. And they're housed right here on this platform so they can go in, support, and show them some love. So I'm so excited for the app. It makes it so much easier. You can download it right in the App Store, whether you have a Mac or Apple or Android, whatever you have, PC, all of the above, you can download Ladies Playbook. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm excited to bring women together. Speaking of bringing women together, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for the show, and her name is Busie Matsiko. On the show today, we have an award-winning consultant, advisor, and global speaker. She is a global strategist and board trustee who has held positions on Wall Street at Smith Barney, Oppenheimer Co, and Citibank. She is also a serial entrepreneur who is widely recognized for her impact leadership and the founder of the New York Africa Chamber of Commerce. Please welcome to the show, Busie Matsiko. How are you?
Hi, Atoya. It's always a pleasure to see you and your happy self. I'm honored to be on this show. It's been like 2 years in the making.
It has. We have talked off and on for so long, always encouraging each other, checking in, uplifting each other. We even met once and had broke bread together. And I've just always loved your energy, your genuineness. And I'm so, so excited to have you on.
I'm so happy to be on Inside Lines. Just been inspired by what I've been listening and the amazing work you're doing. Keep going. Keep winning.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate you. Okay, there's so much to talk about. I mean, what have you not done? You've done some amazing things in your life. I think we want to start with the newest launch, and then we'll go into the other things as well, kind of how you started to where you are now. But I have to give you a shout out because you did something that's amazing. You launched the New York Africa Chamber of Commerce. Tell me about that. Congratulations, and tell everyone about that and how you got this idea.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Atoya. You're so kind. I've always found myself doing stuff with Africa and the U.S. I've lived here 24 years in New York, half Ugandan, half South African. And I just found myself being active in the African diaspora. That includes African Americans, Caribbeans, and Afro-Latinos and allies. And I found that's what my identity has been. And trying to encourage people to do business with Africa. And I said when I curated a panel for Forbes, on which Nick Cannon was, it was connecting the continents, how to do business with Africa. I mentioned, until a lion begins to tell its stories, you'll glorify the story of a hunter. In other words, a lot of the stories from the continent, business stories, also things between Africans and African Americans, the good stories have not always found themselves on mainstream media. So I've wanted to change that, and using the platforms I've had access to highlight what we can do to excel, amplify excellence, and tap into the access we have. And having lived in New York all these years, I'm like, why not a Chamber of Commerce? People would say, oh my goodness, Busie, you're so connected. Why don't you make money off the contacts you have? And I'm like, I'm not transactional like that. Yes, I'm a business person, but I'm intentional about creating deep-rooted relationships and sustainable long-term relationships. So for me, I think a B2B kind of business was the solution to that. And that's a Chamber of Commerce highlighting doing business with Africa in New York. Why not? And let's use mainstream businesses, which can be partners as well as small businesses, as well as members. And I've been watching how chambers of commerce operate, and being intentional about that. And that's how this baby was birthed. And I've been involved in trade with the continent. So that's my why.
I love that. So you had this idea, right? And it didn't come out of thin air. This is something that you thought of over time with all the different relationships and the different jobs, the different speaking engagements, all the people that you have met. Let's back up a little bit and let's talk about all of these relationships, all of the things that you've done. We won't be here. Yeah, I will be here all day if Busie lists everything that she's done, because she's incredible. But talk about, some of your highlights in what you've done and how from those highlights came this idea.
So I, around 2006, I founded one of the first fashion technology companies, which was twice acquired. It was initially a blog, one of the first fashion blogs, which was named one of the top 3 fashion blogs by Time Out New York. And so it was a platform for indie designers.
Love that.
And a lot of my clients were clients from Project Runway finalists. Louis Vuitton outsourced their blogger relations to us. We were the first company they ever outsourced their blogger relations to. And then we did a competition for Maurice's, which is the parent company of the Dress Barn, finding their next handbag designer. And the winner was a stay-at-home mom in Wisconsin who had her bag carried in over 500 stores in North America, Canada, and the United States.
So you changed her life.
Yes. And so for us, that was very pivotal. Mm-hmm. And our Business Week quoted me as saying, you don't have to live in the fashion capitals to make an impact in fashion. So for me, I like to look at that as, wow, that was remote work at its best,
Yes.
And she created a diaper bag which looked so beautiful.
Right.
Yes.
You're right, because back in the day, I'm gonna age myself a little bit. Back in the day, I feel like my diaper bag, everybody knew it was a diaper bag. It was no trying to decide if it was a purse, a big purse. It looked like a diaper bag. And the idea of someone to create something where it didn't look and feel so diaper baggish, right? Like that, they weren't cute back in the day, Busie.
Maybe we're in denial.
Listen.
I know. It was. No,
you could always spot it. You could never lose it, okay? But it was not cute.
Exactly.
So you talked about you've spoken on Forbes, you've spoken on these platforms where people have really listened to you and taken your ideas and your ingenuity and ran with it for themselves. When did this come about? Like, when was your first speaking engagement? And how has it elevated since you first started to now?
Wow. I have had very many encounters. Maybe I will say my first attempt at entrepreneurship was when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
My dad was my first investor in greetings cards business, which didn't do so well, but I initially got it. I had the distribution channels figured out. I was supplying Shell stores at the gas station stores with greetings cards from England. This was in Uganda.
Okay.
So of course I had to pitch. So that I think was where I started with my speaking.
So that's your first initial. You had to go into these places and pitch these
and make
greeting
presentations.
Cards. And
yes.
Were you nervous? Like, how was that? Or were you just so confident? Tell us about that feeling. Because I know that there's people that are curious,
I think, later on, okay, that was that. I didn't think of that as a platform.
Okay.
But I think eventually when I started, Atoya, it's so interesting. I don't really remember my first speaking engagement.
Really?
But I got nervous when I did my TEDx.
Okay.
Why it took me I wrote it on a vision board, and then I was just talking to a friend about how I wanted to do a TEDx, and he's like, what if I say you could end up doing it? I said, oh, really? The next thing I get an email within that week or so, and I ended up, I had only 1 week to prepare, less than 1 week during lockdown.
I'd be nervous too.
Yeah, just after lockdown, yes. And I will be honest, I didn't even complete everything. I was still in editing mode, and I had to show up in Princeton to do it.
Oh, wow.
And I asked him to give me time to do it, but I had the option to do it virtually. So I did it virtually. I'll tell you, it was a good one, but I can see that I was nervous.
Yeah. First of all, the word TEDx, I would be nervous to start. And to your point, only having a week to prepare is definitely not enough time. You think about how long, when you're writing papers and you're doing things and you're presenting, there's time, you go through the edits, that you go through speaking and you go, so I would be nervous too. But in your mind, do you feel like, although you're nervous and you're your worst critic, do you feel like other people can sense that, or it's just in your own mind?
I think telling my younger self that time, I would say, you were enough. You showed up, and you'll just keep getting stronger and stronger. And I look back and I'm like, wait a minute, I did well. We're our biggest critics.
We are. So I want to go back a little bit and talk. You talked about your dad a little bit. I know that he had a law firm, and he also was involved in water drilling. And your dad was also your first investor. Talk about how this came about for you.
So I just know my dad's stories and my mom's stories are very interesting, because my dad fled Idi Amin's regime in Uganda with just a transcript at 22, 23 years old to go to Botswana, where he knew nobody. And he met my mom there, and she was from South Africa, and South Africa was going through apartheid,
Got it.
And so my dad, he said something which was profound. Is like, you know what? You have to keep upskilling. And he's like, you may have talent, but that's really for you have to still nurture the other areas. I used to give Michael Jackson as an example, that how many people are like Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. And then he would give examples of places where there have been genocides. He'd say there have been people who have excelled, but maybe lose everything. And if you don't have some of these certifications, you could be in those are like a foundation to at least to help you get out of something.
That's good.
So, but he was resilient. I learned something about his resilience, because he excelled whichever countries he ended up being in. That was Botswana and Zambia. And he supported others. He always believed in building a strong ecosystem. I learned that from him. And he taught us that I am because you are, regardless of who it is. If you could benefit from somebody who could even be a receptionist, learn to read your room. Sometimes people rush to who the so-called celebrity in the room is, and that person, yes, everybody's going after that person, so just find out who else you could go and talk to who could impact your life. And he used to invest in his interns and people like that. I asked him a question: how come your interns end up excelling? They end up going to Ivy Leagues in the US or in, say, the UK, Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, Yale. He said he would groom them from when they were first years. And he'd say that's up to make them, he's like, I don't want to produce half-baked lawyers and complain that there are so many kids in the university. It's up to me to groom who I want to work with. And I've borrowed that in my team and investing in people I want to work with. I can get them when they were maybe raw, and then I invest in them and turn them into who I want them to become, and upskill them to become, to help themselves, but also I end up becoming successful as a result of the investment I've made in them. And that has morphed into business, and it says you just have to be disciplined. It's like, I don't care how smart you are if you're not disciplined. You'll not, eventually things will fall apart.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah,
you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't hone it, if you're not disciplined and you don't, cultivate it, it definitely could fall apart. So I think that's great advice.
So that's a story,
So would you say your dad is your hero?
I'm team daddy's girl.
Daddy girl. That's what's up. That's awesome. I think that it's important to be a daddy's girl. It's definitely an important part of life. And I know that my dad, if I needed something, he'd have my back too. So it's a beautiful
and
thing.
I think your daughter is also a daddy's girl.
Oh, beyond. He spoils that girl. I'm like, ooh, child, this right here. My boys even say it. They say, Dad, you have a favorite. We can tell. All right. So let's talk about the many things that you've done. You are an advisor and a consultant as well. How did this come about? And just tell people kind of, because I know that there's people that hear the word advisor or consultant and they're like, what does that mean? How do you become that? So I'd love for you to share your story there.
So I've, oh, wow. It's not, I think it's about the time commitment I've spent in stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a founder, founded a couple of things. And with that experience, I found myself also consulting other businesses. But I remember telling myself, I want to be that person who an organization or company comes to and pitches an idea to me as opposed to me pitching them. So that's where I just kept on being intentional about that, writing it down and saying, you know what, I would love it if a bank comes to me and says they want to work with me. And then they propose to me, and then I can tell them how I can work with them. So that's part of how all these consultancies have come about, or then being on the board. That's how I advise and things like that. Like I'm on the board of also the Sepsis Alliance.
Yes.
And Berkeley College. So those are areas where I've advised. And then companies, my goal is to, when I'm advising, when I see a company that wants, sometimes they could offer me equity or offer me, a retainer. That's my goal. That's my the premise of me pushing my brand in that way. And I will say to the person out there, sometimes opportunities are not glaring in your face, but be strategic and intentional about those opportunities. Sometimes volunteer. sometimes lend your service. Don't always be the taker. Be the giver, because everybody is pitching.
It's good.
So if you're pitching and so is pitching, people go with what's best for them. So if you want to be with a certain company and you want to be affiliated with them, serve. They'll see the value in that, and you will also, it will be mutually beneficial. Don't always look at it as people want to use you. I mean, if people continuously don't see value in you, then then you let yourself be used. I think being used is okay. Let me take a step back. There are instances where people take advantage of others, but you shouldn't look at it as people always taking advantage of you. But at the same time, know your worth. When you know your worth, you get what you negotiate, not what you deserve.
That's good.
So people will, if you have a figure that you charge, you put it out there. Eventually people will recognize that, and they will respect you in that space that you're in.
Yeah. That's good. I want to talk about, we think about we talked about all the accolades, the many accolades that you have. There's also those moments in each of our lives where it's a transformative time in our lives where we go through some downtimes or something happens and it kind of changes our life. What was that transformative time for you?
I've had a couple, but I'll talk about two. Okay. One was the sudden death of my dad just before I graduated. I just got my results. He was very happy, and he wanted to attend the graduation walk. And for me, when he passed on, that was a blow, because I thought I was going back to work for Citibank in Uganda, and it didn't happen. I ended up staying in the U.S., but I became a workaholic, and that's how Fashion Indie at the time was founded, during that mode of me trying to cope with grief. And I turned that pain into beauty. It was like beauty for ashes. It was something that distracted me from maybe going down. Maybe I could have gone down a certain path, but I didn't, because I was engaged between my 9-to-5 and then my hobby, which eventually became a business. Number two, when my second child was born, she had severe food allergies from when she was 6 weeks old. And that time was a time when I was an executive director of an organization. And my husband was in residency at the time. And one of us had to think of that career, taking that career, a pivot, and it was me. And that's how I became a consultant, because yes, I was doubling between being a stay-at-home mom, and being Busie. I still have a lot of energy, so I channeled that energy into a consultancy at the time.
You were like, I'm gonna be home, but I still need to be me. That is actually
exactly,
that's beautiful. A lot of women, they lose themselves. It's a part of. It's not always.
I've gone through that too. But I'll tell you that I have.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to have accountability partners, having girlfriends or family members who encourage you that you're enough. And that's, they say iron sharpeneth iron.
Yes.
So if you're surrounded with women who are positive, who don't put you down at that moment, but encourage you that tough time will come to pass, I think that's how that makes the bounce back a lot easier.
Yeah.
And also, and it makes us know that it's life. Life has its great times, and then it might have its challenging times, but you will eventually get out of it.
Yeah, and not only did you get out of it, but through your struggles or the things that you went through, you were able to birth just two beautiful ideas. And, like you said, you worked so hard and stayed focused that's how you dealt with grief. Everybody deals with grief differently, but that was your way. And then thinking about your daughter and then saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to be here for her, but I also have to keep a piece of me, and deciding to pivot and do consulting. That was actually very brilliant of you. I think we're taught, Busie, sometimes that we have to choose one or the other, or we only can do one thing. And you're a prime example of you can do many things, at once.
And have you heard of the word multi-hyphenates?
Yes,
it's a new
multi-hyphenates, absolutely.
Yes. So I'm learning to say, oh my goodness, I think I fall into that category, because people would say, I remember someone saying, oh, you're a jack of all trades. I said, no, I'm not a jack of all trades. I'm the master. I said, no, I'm a master, whatever I set my mind to. If I cannot figure it out, I won't touch it. Or I have to I'm cautiously, I'm that person who, I'm a cautious optimist.
Yeah.
I am a dreamer, don't get me wrong. But if I have to work towards something, I have to look at it, is it feasible? Or even if it's not feasible, even if it's challenging, but can I be able to defend it?
Yeah.
If I can answer that, then I'll be able to touch it. Can I commit to it?
Yes.
If I'm not able to commit to it, I won't touch it.
Yeah. You know what, Busie, as a multi-hyphenate, which you've just said, you just told us that you are, how do you find time for you? What does your self-care routine look like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so, and that's where I think I didn't realize, I think if I had not, some of these challenges had not come into my life, I probably would have been that type A person who's pushing to be C-suite, CEO type of person. Mm-hmm. But I probably would have maybe I would have even decided not to have kids, because I was that person who was most likely maybe would have one kid or so, not, mm-hmm. It was never like, oh, my big dream,
Yeah.
But I think some of that slowed me down and made me know that 98% of my time is with my kids. Mm-hmm. The other stuff, my schedule rotates around my family life and that kind of thing. So during that time, I find rest.
Okay.
And during that time, because, hey, I set my own schedule, right?
Yeah.
So I can decide on whether I'm going to work on something or whether I won't. Mm-hmm. I'm not having a boss who's calling me and expecting me to do stuff at certain times. So I have control over my schedule. So if I feel exhausted, I'll relax.
Yeah.
If I feel I want to just run to the nail salon, I'll do that. If I feel like I want to go to have a massage, I'll go there. If I want to just lay down on the couch, I'll do that too.
So in the moments, whatever you're feeling, you pay attention.
Yes, but
to
I'm
your
now
body
also beginning to also schedule stuff.
You are. Okay, that was my next question.
Yes, I'm learning not to just do it sporadically, but be intentional about setting time. Like, for instance, how was your trip to Nevis?
Oh my gosh, Busie, it was amazing.
That's an example of next year I'm going for that.
You have to listen. Okay, we have to talk about it. So, a lot of you may know I had my first annual Ladies Playbook retreat to Nevis. And Busie, you'll love this part because we talked about it a little bit before. I was intentional about getting my ambassadors together, making sure we spent time together, got to know each other, that we could talk about the Ladies Playbook and what it was and what we were trying to build for women. Ladies Playbook is for women, it's by women, and it's to make sure that we have the resources and recommendations that we need. But while I was there, I also wanted to focus on each female individually, and I felt it was very important for us to vision board. So I brought the vision boards to Nevis. And during one of our Ladies Playbook sessions, we were able to really sit with ourselves and think and look at the different pictures and ideas, and in between there, put those on there and write down what our goals and our vision and our strategy was for us to each individually to be our best self. So Nevis was fantastic. The vision boarding was a hit. All of the women absolutely loved it. And more importantly, they needed it. And sometimes you don't realize it, right?
The images were amazing. I just saw them on social media, on IG, and I had a FOMO moment.
You did? Well, you know what? We're going to do some more retreats, because what I'm hearing from a lot of women that may not just be a part of Ladies Playbook, but they are career women. You know, they're who they are in their own right. They're like, we need this too. Like, seeing this, I realize that I need this. And I got that from not just women that are a part of the NFL exclusively, but women that just need it in general. I think that we do sometimes put ourselves to the side, and we don't take care of ourselves as much as we could. And sometimes just being around other sisters refuels you, helps you to think about your vision even differently. Like you talked about, Busie, you said sometimes just being in a room and just going and talking to someone can spark or inspire something within you. That's what it's about. You know,
it's so funny you say that, because actually that will be a sequel to the book that I'm writing on communication. But that vision boards, it's a powerful tool. I mean, I manifested at TEDx. I manifested going to Davos. I've manifested a lot of things, and I've seen other people do the same thing. And you and I have spoken about this, and you've actually written something to that effect for this upcoming book.
Yes.
And it's an interesting take when it's not only from the metaphysics point of view, but how this can morph into the strategic plans, because actually strategic plans use this, you know, and both on a personal level, team level, as well as an organizational level. It's powerful. It really is. And well done. I'm so happy for you. Well done, sis.
Thank you. I am so excited for my girls, and I'm excited. We're doing our follow-up sessions in 30 days just to kind of really stay, you know, on top of what we're doing, and make sure each person, to your point, has an accountability partner, because that's a part of it too. Sometimes we don't feel like your life takes over. You need someone to call you like, hey, Busie, what you doing, girl? Have you been what have you been working towards on your vision board? You know, we all need that. It's so important.
And it's okay and also for them to know that it's okay to miss a thing or two, but how do you get back? You can defer it a little bit, but get back to it.
That's right. Get back to it.
We're no person left behind.
That's right. The pivots. We all need those pivots. And I can't wait. Do you have an idea, Busie, when this book will be coming out? Because I cannot wait.
So the launch date is December 13th.
Okay.
But y'all
hear that? December 13th.
Pre-release, and I'll let you know as we're rolling out the pre-release, and pre-orders will be done during that time. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to work. I think with what you're doing, I think there's so many synergies we can tap into, because I also have done some workshops with these vision boards, including working with a federal work study program out of Newark. And it was very enlightening, because I realized, and this was for teenagers, not everybody is going expects to go in a particular direction.
Right.
For some who are college, some people look to college, others look to trade school, others have other goals. But how do you bring out the best out of them? How do you, and then help them identify what they could be good at and what opportunities may lie out there for them.
That's good.
And even for stay-at-home moms.
Yes. I was going to say, if you're, there's so many facets to you, because you're a mother, you're a career woman, you're a friend, you're a sister. What's some advice you would give to someone that may be struggling, right now in life, and that needs, some pointers on how to get back on track? Say they don't have accountability partners. Say they're just in this on their own. People may not know, but they just need some piece of advice to help them. What would you say to them?
Sis, as long as you have life, there's hope. And we go through some tough times in our lives. I've been there. And sometimes you don't know, even I'm going through one. I've been going through one, which is not a life-threatening situation, but I've learned how to also compartmentalize it because I have a coach who's walking me through that,
Okay.
And this is just something. It's a minor situation, but I'm just giving an example. What's big to someone might be minor to another. Or what's minor to another person might be big to another person.
Yeah.
But find either a friend a safe space, somebody who is willing to listen, but someone who is doing something amazing. Why I say that? Sometimes they're dream killers.
Oof.
Someone will. They might make you feel worse than you even, you have to be careful in that regard. But identify people, even could be even a YouTuber. It could be like Atoya. I'll tell you, Inside Lines is one of those. I kept on hearing some of the ladies talking about God, talking about how never to give up. I've heard certain things like, oh my goodness, you might see one's life and envy someone's life, but you don't know what they're going, what they have. You see someone driving the most expensive car, Porsche, or going on a yacht, but you don't know how they've gotten to that point. They wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning. They're not just chilling. They're not gold diggers. So, so we have to look at certain, what we consume. If you consume things that drain you and make you feel hopeless emotionally, you'll become that. If you decide to consume something that's uplifting, you'll become that. So, hey, I'm sorry to give you a shout out. I think your content is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do this for the ladies. This is what it's for. And I know that I'm very intentional about the people that I have on. And I feel like, the people that I have on do offer great advice and inspiration for women that, need just that. Just a little bit of inspiration to keep going, and to never give up.
Yes, keep going. And that's for me. I keep going. Never give up. My motto from my alma mater was never give up. So I'm a big person of, I listen, there are some proverbs that keep me going, like never give up. Also things like, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, go alone, So I use such words that encourage me.
Yes.
And, yes.
I love it.
United we stand, divided we fall. I use those types of words that encourage me. And also, I like to see, like, my kids' names mean something. Like my daughter, people don't know, like the name Sydney. People usually think Sydney means Sydney, Australia, but Sydney means wide meadow. And for me, that was abundance. That was, you can be anything you want to be. Zara, Z-A-R, means radiance.
That's your
So for me,
name.
that's, Elsie is a variation of Elizabeth, which is ornate woman, and then my name, Busie, the full name is Businjo, which means peace. And then the last name, Matsiko, means hope. So sometimes when I'm going through some challenging, I think about those words, those names.
Wait, so Busie is
a
peace.
short name for Businje, which is a Ugandan name, which means
and
peace.
Matsiko is hope.
Hope.
Wow. That's beautiful.
So I sometimes lean into my names when I'm going through that. I remind myself, you know what? Your peace, you need peace to come upon you.
Yes.
Your hope, you never give up,
That's right. That's beautiful. I'm glad that you
kids, the people who are depending on you, not just your children or other people who look up to you. And remember that. And that's why for me it's important to also self-care, because sometimes I remember a pastor told me one time, that Busie, you always have to remember to keep a reservoir for yourself. That was some of the best things I heard. One of the best statements I heard over 2-3 years ago. I became intentional about learning to say no if I cannot do something, and not, even if someone gets upset about it, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you're okay.
But I'll do it in a very tactful way.
That's good.
Okay, you ready for some fun? Should I say some more fun? We always play this game at the end. Yes. At the end of our talk, our girl talk, I love a good game. It's called the 2-minute drill. And I start the timer and I just basically ask you questions, this or that questions, or fill in the blank, and you just answer it. It's a way for our listeners to get to know you. So you ready?
Yes.
All right. 2-minute drill starts now. Name your favorite sport.
My favorite sports?
Your favorite sport.
I'm a track and field type of gal.
Me too. You know, I love, listen.
Athletics.
100 hurdles, the 4x1, the 4x4.
Yep,
Yes.
that's when I never go wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Tell me your favorite place you've traveled to.
Davos, Switzerland.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Interesting. I mean, because I've traveled to different countries, but I found it, when I stood in the Alps in January, I just felt, wow, I'm conquering the world. I was reminded of my why.
Yeah.
And there are going to be others coming.
That's beautiful.
To join me in this journey.
Okay,
So
I'm going to put that on my list, the Alps. Okay, TikTok or IG?
IG.
Okay.
I'm still old school.
She's like, I'm still old school. All right. Tell me an inspirational person to you.
There have been many. For me, I'll say Jesus.
There you go. Do you have a favorite quote?
If you want to go fast, go alone. Mm-hmm. If you want to go far, go together.
That's good. And
in other words, let's be intentional about building our ecosystem.
That's good. And if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
You're enough. You got this, girl.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Busie, for joining. Now, listen, I know people are going to have questions. They're going to be like, this woman is so intriguing. How do they get a hold of you? Where do they find you?
My IG. I'm very active on IG. I say a bit active on IG. Also LinkedIn.
Okay.
Busie Matsiko.
Busie Matsiko.
And,
Beautiful woman.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to link your contact info in the notes. Thank you so much, Busie, for joining. You're so inspirational. What you're doing and what you're starting, I cannot wait to see just the evolution, how it just grows and evolves. And I'm sure you'll be back on sharing once again all your amazing accomplishments. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow on both Instagram and Facebook. You can also check out the website, insidelinespodcast.com, and listen to your favorite episode. Lastly, check out the YouTube page, Inside Lines Podcast, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when a new episode comes out. And please leave an amazing 5-star review online and let us know who you'd like to hear on Inside Lines Podcast. Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.